Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, HollywoodShono here, about to give you another Injustice Gods Among Us video. In this video, we talk about all of the challenges that have been released for both Android and iOS. Now, the list of challenges here will actually pertain to the iOS version and when the challenges have actually came out. So the first ever challenge for Injustice Gods Among Us, as people know, was the Batgirl challenge. And this first ever challenge was actually pretty cool because it gave a passive ability that nobody's been able to duplicate, and Batgirl and her teammates each start the match with 1 bar of power. And the reason this is significant is that back in the day, Arkham Origins Batman, before I believe patch 2.2, actually started with 3 bars of power when you use Batgirl and Arkham Origins Batman. So a lot of people were running that team on multiplayer, pretty much wipe somebody out right away. So usually to counter that, you'd have to throw in, say, Red Sun, Solomon, Grundy, and hope to survive. Now, her stats were pretty average, nothing really that sticks out. High damage, and health was about 1,050 if I remember. I think damage was about 850 or 900, so nothing to write home to, as you see with the 6,655 damage there, and Animated Batman Beyond with 8,390, and even Blackest Night Batman was 7,762. So I think the 850 damage stood about right, but Batgirl used to be an extremely fast attacker, so that really didn't matter. Second ever challenge that was released, and people that have been following my YouTube for a long time know that there is no 5th battle in Nightmare or actually the 5th battle period for the Zod challenge, because before I was actually able to upload the video, my hard drive died on me, and this is the only challenge that I have not been able to get the 5th battle of Nightmare up, and I would love to see a Zod remake just for that reason alone. Now, Zod has 800 damage, 1,200 health, so he's a little bit soft in the damage department. However, his passive ability kind of offsets that. For every teammate that is knocked out, General Zod receives 20% bonus to all damage and a 20% bonus to health. So basically, he heals up 20%, so you use Zod first. You get your other guys in, you try to survive or let them get knocked out. Zod heals up and does more damage. So, interesting card. Doesn't really see play ever, but he's a fun card to deal with. Our third ever challenge that was released was the Red Sun Deathstroke challenge. And this was a really big deal because he was the only card able to synergize with the 3 Red Sun cards. So a lot of people actually swapped out Solomon Grundy in favor of more damage at the cost of 45% health. I was actually not one of those people because I found his passive ability to be a piece of garbage, as the speed really didn't matter that much. And I liked having the 45% health, that way I could get more heals on my specials, and if I took a Winged Avenger, I pretty much wouldn't die. Now, Deathstroke's rare gear item is one of the best in the game, and it really suits Deathstroke's role for doing damage. That is the Prometheum Longsword, and at level 1 it has a 50% damage boost of basic attacks, I think 25% or 30% chance to crit, and then you get a crit boost for more damage on crit attacks. So the next challenge that was released is the 4th challenge, and this is a card that actually had decent stats back in the day at 950 damage, 1,000 health, but unfortunately in this day and age, Raven doesn't really feel a role anywhere since the Prime Raven actually has a better passive and better stats. Now, to fix the Demon Stance for Regime Raven, all you'd have to do is take out from the opponent for 8 seconds and allow her basic attacks to permanently drain power. So if they actually did that, Regime Raven would be a decent card. And Raven's gear item is the Azerothian Cloak, which synergizes really well with the level 2 moves, as it does hit multiple times on each card. So by doing that, you have the life drain that hits every time on Special 2. And if you evolve it, critting on Special 2 makes it really good stacking power generation on Raven, especially combined with the Ibis Stick and the Sword, or Aquaman's gear item, or anything else that increases Special 2 damage, and Raven usually will get up to 2 bars. So that is a really good card.
Raven. Now
with Regime Aquaman, he does have one saving grace, and that would be the fact that his super move, Atlantean Rage, is the only move in the game that can actually power drain Static or Lobo. The only card in the game that is capable of doing this. Now keep in mind, this is also a tank card at 800 damage and I believe 1100 health or 1050 health, somewhere in that range. So he's definitely one of the weaker cards. He's not going to beat people up. So he's definitely one of the better utility cards in the game. However, with his low damage, he really doesn't see a lot of play, but still a fun card to use. The 6th challenge that was released was Blackest Night Batman, and what made him significant is that at the time, he was the highest damage card in the game, although Red Sun Superman was more effective with 1000 damage, 1100 health. Blackest Night Batman passive ability gives 20% damage between midnight and sunrise, which basically gave him as much damage as Ares at 1200 between midnight and 6 a.m. And that passive does work on everything, including specials or supernovas. So Blackest Night Batman is fun at night. He's only hampered by having like 850 or 900 health, but you can obviously offset that if you're one of those guys that actually use Batman's gear item. And Batman's gear item is the Bulletproof Batsuit. Max health increase, crit boost, more damage on crit attacks, and Evolve disables enemy specials, 15% chance on Signature 1. And his level 2 move is Necrotic Energy, which is a basic 3-hit attack that really doesn't combo into other people. 7th challenge released is Hawkgirl, who is going to see another variant really soon. And her passive ability used to only negate the tag in for 2 seconds. Now it does it for 4 seconds, and it also forces the opponent to stay in for 8 seconds. And what makes that significant is the fact that if you're whittling somebody down, like say for example you use a Bloody War, then you bring somebody else in like Luchador Bane to feel the pain, bitter taste, you can stop the person from coming out when they take a lot of damage. So Hawkgirl is kind of one of those tankish cards again, not really significant stats, although I think she had like 900 damage and 950 or 1000 health, somewhere in that range. So definitely on the weaker side, but she does have some synergy now with New 52 Nightwing, Luchador Bane, and Cassandra Cain Batgirl. So she's not a totally useless card, but very situational and easily countered by the more try-hard teams. The next challenge after Hawkgirl was the 8th challenge, Elseworld Flash. And he has one of the worst stats in the game at 750 damage and health, right up there with Prison Superman, Sheikh Ahmed Habibi, Containment Doomsday, and a couple others. Now what made Elseworld Flash's passive ability really unique is the fact that it would cancel out special moves. And since patch 2.4, it doesn't do that anymore, unfortunately. And this is the card that everybody hates getting out of challenge booster packs. And as you see, I have enough promotions to get him up to Elite 8. If the promotion cap was Elite 10, but promotions are so cheap, it really doesn't matter. Next up in the 9th challenge overall was one of my favorite cards, and this was the first ever real difficult challenge for Nightmare difficulty. It was one of the funnest challenges ever. Second one being 600 Wonder Women, which we'll be talking about fairly soon. What makes Martian Manhunter really useful / annoying is not the fact that he's a tank card at 800 damage and 1200 health. It's the fact that Martian Manhunter's basic combo has a chance of a stun, mental damage, which is the weakest of the 3 effects, or my favorite one being a 1-bar power drain without using any power. And you can see that Martian Manhunter does use this to his advantage quite a bit, as he's dealing damage to somebody, he can power drain them down, pretty much rendering a lot of stuff useless. It's also a really good counter to Killer Frost, as power draining and stunning is a really big deal. Pillar Slam is also a 3-hit level 2 move. You have to knock somebody out on the first hit for the hentai tentacles to actually hit somebody else. And the 9th challenge that was available was Mortal Kombat Scorpion, which was pretty much tied into the release on Injustice Gods Among Us. And at patch 2.0, his level 2 move was so overpowered, I had to promote him up to Elite 5 right away. And the Hellfire is one of my favorite multi-hit moves because it pretty much just wipes everybody out. Now, Mortal Kombat Scorpion's gear item is the Kama, which gives a damage boost to basic attacks, life drain chance on every hit of special 2, and if you evolve it, crit chance on basic attacks. So if you throw the Prometheum Longsword and something else on Scorpion, he'll pretty much crit every hit and do a lot of damage and lifesteal on special 2. Now, Mortal Kombat Scorpion used to have 750 damage and 850 health, and they've since changed it to 950 damage and 850 health. While he's still an extremely soft health card and definitely pound for pound one of the worst gold cards in the game because of that extremely low health. If you have him promoted up, obviously 60,000 health isn't that bad, and you can offset that by putting somebody like Crypto Lex Luthor or Animated Harley Quinn on your team for extra boost. So now the next challenge is also one of my favorites because of the passive ability, and that would be our first black challenge card, which is John Stewart Green Lantern. Now his parallel nature is an interesting move because it's like a 6 or 7 hit combo. Hits him 3 times and then 3 times for a shotgun for a little bit of damage. But what makes John Stewart Green Lantern more fun than his tank-like stats at 800 damage and 1200 health is the fact that when a teammate reaches 20% health, a barrier appears, making that character invulnerable for 4 seconds. So say a special move would normally wipe an opponent out. If the move does not wipe the opponent out on a multi-hit move, say a Winged Avenger leaves Superman at 5,000 health, the other 2 hits will not connect and basically mitigates damage. And that's why the Emergency Barrier, in my opinion, is a really good passive. Now up next, they actually released the Batgirl challenge for the second time, which was around the same time that my YouTube account got banned for a month for copyright creations infringement, which was false, for The Simpsons Tapped Out, which is why I've alienated that game and I don't play it anymore. So again, Batgirl has that 1 bar of power. Nobody else has been able to duplicate that, and it's a really good ability. So the next challenge that was released was the 10th new card, and it was one of the best cards in the game, and that would be Darkseid, who had 1,050 damage as well as 1,200 health. His passive ability is really garbage unless you use bronze cards, because all bronze cards on Darkseid's team gain 300% health and damage. And when you throw gear on Deathstroke, he just becomes ridiculous, even buffed up. He'll actually do damage almost like a gold card. And the Fires of Apocalypse is the worst level 2 move in the game if it's blocked, as it'll really only do about 10,000 damage. When it actually connects, the Fires of Apocalypse looks amazing, as it'll just shoot the guy up in flames and incinerate them. It's amazing. Now the next challenge, and I think this was the absolute last challenge before patch 2.0, which increased the level cap and the promotion cap to 50 Elite 7. It was the 600 Wonder Woman challenge, and this was the second hard challenge on Nightmare difficulty. And Wonder Woman's gear item, we'll actually show Darkseid's first, as we forgot to do that. Darkseid's gear item is really good for tank cards because blocking stops more damage, crit chance on special 1, and exclusive to Darkseid, chance to reflect special 1 while blocking. So if you throw the disc on Darkseid, you're going to get a high chance to reflect special 1 while blocking, and as we all know, everybody loves to spam special 1 moves on the computer in multiplayer. The crit chance on special 1 is really good with his Omega Blast. I also find it to be really good with Wonder Woman, so the Omega Battle Plate is a really solid gear item in general. Next up, we're going to show the Sword and Shield, which blocking stops a percentage of damage, chance to reflect special 2 while blocking, and evolved is a stun chance on special 1. The reason that stun chance is actually good with Wonder Woman is her main damage is from the shield toss, not from her basic attacks, especially when I've used her. So if you throw on, say, the Ibis Stick on Wonder Woman, her level 1 move will do between 10 and 30% more damage. If you throw the Omega Battle Plate along with the Sword and Shield on Wonder Woman, you're going to lose a little bit of blocking, although if you evolve the gear item, it's not so bad. But then you gain a crit chance on special 1. You also gain a chance to stun on special 1. So you get some really cool effects with that if you put those 3 items on Wonder Woman, like so. So if you throw these 3 gear items, you have a really solid card that can wipe people out with level 1 specials. Now what makes 600 Wonder Woman really good is the fact that for all female characters, Wonder Woman's team received a 30% damage and power generation bonus. Now the best way to utilize this is with cards that have really annoying passives, like Raven, Killer Frost, or somebody that's a fairly solid card just like Red Sun Wonder Woman, although I think Killer Frost and Raven would be the best way to utilize it. Although you could also go with Animated Harley Quinn and just load everybody up with power generation and just special move people into the ground. So 600 Wonder Woman is one of the better gold cards, even though she doesn't have the best stats. She only has like 850 damage and 1,050 health, somewhere in that category. The next challenge released was a card that I thought was really good, but in my opinion, it's actually a pile of garbage.
Doomsday.
And that would be Containment Doomsday. And the reason for that is he's the only Doomsday card that has a 3-hit heavy combo, whereas everybody else has a 4-hit light combo and a 2-hit heavy attack. And the heavy attack caused more damage with basic attacks, not with Containment Doomsday. Now, what makes Containment Doomsday interesting is that 3 times per match you actually gain a 10% damage increase, which actually puts you up to about the 1,000 damage range, as you have 600 base damage and 700 health. So that's actually not true. Puts them at about 950 damage, and that health is obviously more significant than that. But if you're using Winged Avengers on Containment Doomsday and Batman has the Ibis Stick, well, he'll just wipe you out and completely wipe out your evolutionary rebirth, and yeah, that's pretty bad. So the next challenge also falls in the garbage disposal category, in my opinion, and that would be Boss Solomon Grundy. What's significant about Boss Solomon Grundy is he's the first ever card to have 1,250 health, but he has a whopping, I think it was 500 or 550 damage, and that is completely unacceptable for a gold card. That is extremely weak, and 1 foot in the grave would probably be useful on any other card in the game, but Solomon Grundy is one of the slowest cards in the game, and you're pretty much forced to use light attacks, which only do half damage anyways. And if you ever tried to use Solomon Grundy's heavy attack, it's very difficult to use even if the opponent blocks. So Boss Solomon Grundy falls in the garbage disposal category. So now after the Boss Solomon Grundy challenge, they actually released Darkseid again, and that's what prompted me to upgrade Darkseid to Elite 7 from Elite 5, as it was basically free. So after doing Darkseid for the second time, now we have a card which a lot of people did use in multiplayer for a while, and that would be the Regime Killer Frost Challenge. Now what makes Regime Killer Frost good is not only her gear item, which is found right here. Power generation increase, life drain chance on special 2, and a chance to disable enemy special. That's pretty garbage. But the fact that if you throw the Ibis Stick on Killer Frost, not only do you do a lot more damage with your special moves, but you regenerate power like crazy. So if you throw 600 Wonder Woman with Killer Frost, load her up with power generation gear, and then you throw on animated Harley Quinn, who has blocking gear in the 357 revolver, there is no way your team is ever going to lose. And with Regime Killer Frost, her passive is Polar Vortex, which reduces all healing effects by 90%, and a lot of the tryhards in multiplayer, especially teams that run double Killer Frost and Shazam, have a lot of healing. Well, Regime Killer Frost counters that considerably, so you really have to wear your opponent down with a lot of basic damage or special damage, and Regime Killer Frost also fits into that 800 damage, 1,200 health category, which is really bad, as you see by the 5,841 damage, but 18,000 health. So Killer Frost is definitely more suitable in the tank role. Next up, we have the first new Red Sun card before Deathstroke, and that would be Red Sun Batman. Now, he only had like 850-ish damage and like 1,050 health, but what makes Red Sun Batman actually a pretty solid card is the fact that the Red Sun Cunning, all teammates gain chance for unblockable on Special 1 attacks. And if you were paying attention to how I gear up Red Sun Wonder Woman, that's why I feel Red Sun Batman is amazing with Wonder Woman and Superman. But if you're going for a more offensive role, you can put the Special 1 damage moves on Superman, load up Batman with blocking gear, and then put your special damage on Deathstroke, or put your damage gear on Deathstroke. And when you pair him with Solomon Grundy, his Cleaver Spin is actually a decent hitting level 1 move, so Solomon Grundy won't feel useless. With Red Sun Green Lantern, I actually like using the Guardian a lot better, so pairing Batman with Green Lantern is not a good idea. Next challenge after Red Sun Batman is a new flavor of the month, and I still see him used on multiplayer, is Arkham Origins Deathstroke. Now, Point Blank is the move that it works with, and it can do upwards of 25,000 damage. It's probably higher now with the Insta-Stick. I've also seen people put the Ra's al Ghul on Arkham Origins Deathstroke and putting Deathstroke in first. And I actually don't like putting Deathstroke in first because if you can survive that initial onslaught, you'll pretty much destroy Arkham Origins Deathstroke for free. Arkham Origins Deathstroke, in my opinion, is a much better person to come in off the tag. Reaching 200% damage on Point Blank special makes it unblockable and automatically crit. You cannot avoid the unblockable, but to avoid the automatically crit, you have to have Red Sun Green Lantern on your team, and 8% damage increase per promotion actually makes him a really solid card. I believe he had like 850 damage and 1,050 or 1,100 health. It's a solid tank card, but when you have the promotions on Arkham Origins Deathstroke, he's actually a really good all-around card, just like Red Sun, Superman, Raven, Static, Arkham Origins, Batman, etc. So the next challenge I would like to talk about is the Luchador Bane challenge, and this was the first card that was released that actually had 1,200 base damage, I believe, or maybe it was 1,150, and I forget that he's in the B category, not in the L.
Bane.
So Luchador Bane, as you see at level 46, 8,316 health, and Ares, 9,315, so I think it's 1,150 damage. Now, Luchador Bane is probably one of the best cards to use with Hawkgirl, as her passive has a chance to stun his opponent and receive 25% boost to all damage for 4 seconds. What makes this significant is it also works with super moves, so you can actually boost the damage of super moves by 25%. But if you're going that route, you really want to put Batman in and somebody else that raises basic damage, or even Hawkgirl, just so you can get off the bitter taste more. Now, as far as gearing Luchador Bane more, it seems to be most logical to actually gear up with basic damage. Now, with Bane's rare gear item, his is the Venom Harness, which is a max health increase, and he's one of the few characters that has a power drain on a special, and Evolved also heals self on special 1, so that could be really helpful with cards like Killer Frost or anybody else that needs a way to heal up on special 1. Next up we have the Zatanna challenge. Now I've actually found this card to be pretty below average and not really that useful because Zatanna is kind of a soft tank card. Her Deck of Fate can be really random, and that's off her level 2 move. Each card has one of 5 effects. Regain 50% of health, damage over time, damage boost, power drain, or is an all magic, it can backfire. And basically what that means is that it stuns you. Now what makes this different from Harley Quinn's level 2 move is the fact that Zatanna's move is a lot harder to predict, but most of the time you get a useful effect. Once in a while you get crap, and obviously it deals damage by the cards that it throws out, so even if it backfires, you're still going to do some damage to the opponent, and this falls in the fun factor just like Arrow, Green Arrow, and Martian Manhunter. It's not a card that's going to win you fights, but you're going to have a lot of fun playing it. And next up we have Red Sun Green Lantern, which is, in my opinion, the absolute best challenge card in the game, even better than Killer Frost. The reason for that is the Red Sun armor does so much stuff for Red Sun cards. 20% less special damage taken. You're also immune to stun and crit, which means you cannot be stunned by the explosive batarangs. I think Luchador Bane's stun does still work, however, so it really doesn't make you immune. But the fact that you cannot be crit is a lot of damage mitigation in multiplayer. And now with Bane's passive, you also can't be crit by his basic attacks either. And Red Sun Green Lantern has 800 damage, 1,200 health, so he's very tankish. And you can also throw the disc and the green power ring on him as well. And you have a chance to reflect special 2 while blocking, so a really good card to put blocking gear on because you can mitigate Arkham Origins Batman, and if you reflect the specials, they'll only do like 3,000 damage on the Winged Avenger and pretty much block it for free. So Red Sun Green Lantern, in my opinion, was the best challenge in the game. However, a challenge that is also really strong was the Raven challenge. I think she had 1,050 base damage and health, which is right up there with Darkseid as one of the best overall stat characters in the game. Demonic Rage is why Raven's passive is so strong. Twice per match when Raven is below 20% health, she swaps health with her opponent. And you saw Raven's gear item earlier. What makes Raven also significant is if you stack blocking gear on a unpromoted Raven, you can get her effects off almost all the time, unless you're dealing with an Arkham Origins Deathstroke or some character that has a form of stun just like Luchador Bane. And you can trigger that effect, bring in your high damage card, and Raven will win you many fights in multiplayer whether you have 7 promotions or 0. And that's why I feel Raven is one of the better challenge characters, right up there with Red Sun, Green Lantern, and Darkseid.
Aquaman.
The next challenge card after Raven was Aquaman, and I find this card very underwhelming because not only does the Atlantean Rage not power drain, the armies of Atlantis actually hurts more than it helps. While you have a body out there to absorb specials, it really doesn't have a lot of health. You can also upgrade it to kind of upgrade that ability as well, so you'll gain a higher percentage of damage. I haven't run many tests with this card because I still feel it's a piece of crap, but I haven't run tests to see if adding basic damage will actually allow your Atlantean hero to mimic all the gear on that card and actually be able to pull out some decent basic damage. Trident Toss is a solid special move as well, and the Atlantean Polearm does give a good damage boost to special too. It also gives a stun component to special too. So when you're using this on a card like Arkham Origins Batman, this gear item is really good because not only can you cause an unblockable effect, you also have a chance to stun the opponent, which then combined can pretty much wipe somebody out when you tag into your high basic damage dealer.
Aquaman.
So Aquaman sucks. His gear item is actually pretty good. The challenge after Prime Aquaman is another card, and this challenge was one of the hardest ones with level 50 Elite 7. I think Warner Brothers learned that a lot of people beat the challenge by pretty much just using Raven and then throwing high basic damage on the other cards. But in my opinion, Godfall Superman described as a blocker, as he had, I believe, 1,000 damage and 1,200 health, or somewhere in that range. His stats are actually slightly better than Red Sun Superman, I think by like 50 damage. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. So think of him like a Darkseid. I think he actually has 1,200 health as well. So, Power of Candor on successful block, Superman reflects all basic damage. Now, at first sight, you would see that, oh, it's still good to put basic damage gear on Superman. On contrary to belief, reflecting basic damage is 50% mitigation instead of 25%. And when you throw blocking gear on Godfall Superman, no, you do not do a lot of damage to the opponent. And that's where actually having blocking gear on Godfall Superman is a hindrance. But if you're blocking, you need to have some sort of value, and putting blocking gear on that will pretty much negate the damage that you take. So Godfall Superman is a really good card, but he doesn't fall in that elite status like Red Sun Superman, Raven, Killer Frost, Arkham Origins Deathstroke, Darkseid, or Arkham Origins Batman, but he's still an above average card. Now the next challenge released is a very fun card, and that would be Animated Batman Beyond, who had high damage and very below average health. Although if you're one of those noobs that use the bulletproof batsuit, it really isn't that bad with this card since it offsets his health weakness and you gain more crit on basic attacks. And if you use that with Explosive Battering, you increase your basic damage. And if you use the Dark Knight, it increases your crit chance, which means you will gain more crits, even if you're using the bulletproof batsuit, which in my opinion should not be used with Batman. It should only be used on cards like Killer Frost that really need the heals on special ones. I could kind of see why they would use it in that regard, because more health means more healing that you do with your special one. So the Future Bat raises crit chance. You can also Future Bat Explosive Battering, gain a ton of crit chance and basic damage as well. Or you can simply use the Dark Knight if you choose to load up on crit chance and do more critical damage. And unlocking Batman Beyond actually run some tests on that. I'm not going to go into detail on that, as that would take like 10 minutes to do that. After the Animated Batman Challenge was around when they were having some issues with stuff within the new update, so they actually released Red Sun Green Lantern for the second time, and that's when I decided to Elite 7 Red Sun Green Lantern, and I'm really glad I've done that. Best decision I've ever made. And they've also redone the Regime Killer Frost, which is why I have 6 promotions. I also pulled one from either the Challenge Booster Pack or the 10 Most Wanted packs that I did. and that's why he's Elite 6. And coming up pretty soon will be the Elite 7 video on Regime Killer Frost, and fairly solid card. We've seen both of the Killer Frost used very well in multiplayer. Next up is the Mortal Kombat X Scorpion Challenge. And I found this card to be really average. His damage score is really high at, I believe, 1,150 damage. His health was like 900, 950. However, the Reborn Spectre actually gives health per promotion, and reaching 200% damage on a special attack makes it damage over time automatically crit. Bonus 8% health per promotion. The Doom Slice actually is a high damage over time ability. So if you can put Mortal Kombat X Scorpion with Batman Returns Batman, and you're really good at aiming the bar for 200%, you're really going to just wreck people by using his level 2 move. And the multi-hit rule also works. The Industic can also upgrade the ability on the Doom Slice, so you can really pull off some crazy stuff with Mortal Kombat X Scorpion. The problem I have with him is he's a really slow attacker, so you really need moves that increase power generation. The best way to use Mortal Kombat X Scorpion is pretty much just get your specials in and get out. Unfortunately, his heavy attack also does not increase damage like Doomsday and on Arkham Harley Quinn, so you have that disadvantage going for you. The next challenge released is Static, and I believe he had like 1,100 damage in health. He is the new gold standard for overall highest stats. Passive ability is Aftershock, immune to power drain. Successfully blocking special attacks generates power per stat. Now he has a stun component in his level 1 move, and it's actually one of the better level 1 moves in the game. Is the multi-hit level 1 move. High Gear also does a ton of damage, so if you have some healing on both of those moves, you can't go wrong. High Gear is a multi-hit move, and it does do a lot of damage. Now, Static's gear item is one of the best defensive gear items in the game because it's the only gear item that reflects all specials while blocking, and it's the only gear item that the reflect is not tied to a specific character. And when you mitigate specials, it cuts the damage in half further. So say a move that would do 5,000 damage on Red Sun Green Lantern now would only do 2,500. Or in the case of Red Sun Green Lantern, only do 2,000 damage versus 10,000 if you put it on, say, Regime Superman. So Static was definitely a really good challenge. After the Static challenge, unless you caught it very early in the Mortal Kombat X Scorpion challenge, Zatanna was released for the second time or for the first time fully on Android. And as we know, Zatanna is a very average card. After the Zatanna challenge is one of the most overpowered passives in the game, and that would be Killer Frost. And Best Served Cold dampens all opponents' power generation by 50%. Now, as we know, I like to stack power generation in multiplayer. This pretty much kills your advantage and pretty much puts you back to where you were before. Now, when you combine that with reduced healing and with the chance to reduce power when you hit a special from Cold as Ice, which still works with Killer Frost, by the way, then you have the Black Ice, which has some hits in the move actually unblockable, just like Godfall Superman. And I've seen Killer Frost do that Black Ice, do the slide, immediately tag into Killer Frost, and get her special move off. They really need to rethink that because it's very overpowered and cheap. Basically allowing you to get off a free hit from Killer Frost and then a free hit from somebody else, and you're pretty much gone. Combine that with high health cards, and you'll see why all the players in the top 1% use double Killer Frost and Shazam, and expect that to get nerfed in patch 3.5. And most recently, the current challenge that is available is finally a Joker card, and the gear item for Arkham Origins Joker is the pistol. I have not done Nightmare Challenge yet, so I cannot actually show off that gear item, but I will be doing that within a day or so and getting the challenge uploaded by Friday. So Arkham Origins Joker, passive ability, Joker special attacks inflict poison gas. The damage from the poison multiplies with every Arkham teammate. And even with 8,000 damage, the poison I found does about 200 damage. So when you have the full promotion, think about 2,000, 3,000 damage, and then multiplying that by 6. And you'll find that Arkham Origins the Joker is really good to stack power generation gear on, because the more poison damage you deal from your special moves, and especially with the Ibis stick having a percentage of health for dot damage, Joker can pretty much just eat people away with their special moves. And in my opinion, there was some talk from Rick Blevins about rather using Arkham Origins Deathstroke and Harley Quinn, or using Arkham Origins Batman and just ignoring Harley Quinn. The reason I don't like putting Deathstroke on that team is the fact that the Shank is a multi-hit move, and the Winged Avenger is the best level 2 move in the game. And I don't find Arkham Origins Deathstroke to really be benefiting on that team because his passive ability, you really want to use Point Blank's not Identity Crisis with Arkham Origins Deathstroke. And that's why I feel Arkham Origins Deathstroke has no place on this Arkham Origins trio. You can use Harley Quinn, Deathstroke, and the Joker together, although if you're using a try-hard best stats team, I personally think Deathstroke is the worst out of the 4. Leave your comments below on that and let me know what you think of that. If you like this video on the Injustice Gods Among Us full list of challenge characters, which is accurate as of Tuesday, June 9th, please give this video a like rating, comment, subscribe, share this video amongst your friends, and as a favorite, check out my other Injustice Gods Among Us videos, my playlist, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, which are all HollywoodShono. And who would you like to actually see repeated in a challenge? And who do you think will be in the new challenges? Have a wonderful day, kids.
www.youtube.com/HollywoodShono. Subscribe, bitches!